Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from AnthonyMorganti.com. This is episode 18 of the video series where I critique and process your image. In this episode, we're taking a look at this image from Ian. Now, Ian didn't tell me exactly where this was taken, but he did say that he used a Fujifilm X70 camera. That's a little compact camera with a fixed focal length, non-interchangeable 14 millimeter lens. And as far as his camera settings, they're fine. He shot at f8, which is, the sweet spot, I think, of this lens. So it was a good f-stop. And to shoot at f8, he was at 1/1000th of a second, which froze the bike riders. Now, if the riders were actually moving relatively quickly through the scene, and you could see their wheels, I would recommend that you use a slightly slower shutter speed so you get the wheels moving. That is a little better of a look you usually want to achieve. But in this case, they're kind of moving away from the camera. You really can't see the spokes of the wheels that well. So I don't think it was as critical for this shot to have that happen. But if you were a little more broadside to the bike riders and you could see the spokes of the wheels, I think you would probably be better to shoot at maybe 1/500th of a second or so. But it worked out well for this. We're at ISO 1000, but this sensor on these Fuji cameras are really good again, with noise, and it still gives a lot of detail. So it's a very nice shot. I don't have any problems really with any of his camera settings. Now the composition itself, I like the composition, and this is one of those things where, we always see these beautiful um, photographs of these mountain ranges in catalogs and or calendars, I should say, and things like that. And really, this is one of those areas that you have to be there at the perfect time of day. And it's very difficult. Of course, we both, all of us probably, have lives and we work real jobs, and we can't just hang out at this mountaintop and wait for the light to come perfectly down this valley and light everything nicely, maybe low and nice warm light. So we can't achieve that all the time. So we have to deal with it in post. I like it though still. I mean, these heavy shadows here is what I'm specifically referring to. I'd like to try to avoid that. And the only way really to avoid that, instead of the sun being way over here on the far right and low, you're going to need it over here probably. And it could be low maybe, as long as there's not a big mountain in the way over here, but then it would, light everything a little more evenly, and it would be a little darker on the outside of the frame, which would be okay. But we got what we got, and we got to deal with it. Now, as far as the composition itself, I think, at 14 millimeters, he's as wide as you're going to go with this lens. This is, a fixed focal length lens. And if we open the crop tool, we could see that neither rider are near the any of the points of intersection at rule of thirds. And if I hit the O key, whoops, you can see they're really not going to be any near anything near any of the strong points of these other crop overlays. So I'm going to hit shift and hold the O key and flip this golden spiral around. And you can see it's now over here, so neither rider are really over that exact point. But there's really not much I think we could do here with cropping to try to get them near something. If I crop them to get them near one of these points of intersection, we're going to lose a lot of real estate that we want to keep in the shot. If I crop them for the golden spiral, even though that would be less of a crop, we're going to lose a lot of the mountaintops. So I don't think we are going to crop at all. We've got to take it as is. Now we do have a great leading line right here. So we have this nice leading line helping us through the shot, and we have the riders here, which adds some visual interest to the shot, kind of a focal point of the shot, and then everything else is a beautiful backdrop to them. So we have what we have. It could be stronger if there was a way he could position himself to get them near that point, that golden spiral point, or the point of intersection where rule of thirds would be a good crop overlay. But like I said, it's hard to do when you're out here shooting and people are riding through the scene and things like that. So we have what we have, and I think we're just going to have to deal with it the way it is. There's no way I could crop it to make it any better, is what I'm getting at. So we're just going to jump right into processing it. And the first thing, I see right here is this shadow right here. So I want to deal with that. So I'm going to open up shadows, and that helped that considerably. Now, I'm going to bring down highlights, and that's really affecting the sky, and I like that. So we're getting a little more detail up here in the sky when I bring highlights all the way down. Now I'm going to jump down to vibrance, and I'm going to add a touch of vibrance, not a lot. And as I look at the image, I'm wondering how it would look if it was warmer. So I'm going to go up here to white balance, and I'm going to put on a cloudy white balance. And actually, I kind of like that. I kind of like that. So I'm going to leave that. And now, if you went to shade, it would be even stronger. Shade's a little stronger. So I'm going to leave it at cloudy. I like that. I like that look. It looks like the sun is a lot warmer. So we're going to go with that. There's a lot of contrast in the shot already. Excuse me. So we're going to go to tone curve and add some medium contrast. And see how it darkened all in here a lot? Strong contrast. I don't like that at all. So we're not going to add any contrast. And I'm going to go right to the whites, and I'm going to hold the shift key in and double click on the word whites. And it brought whites down -5, no biggie. And we're going to do the same thing with blacks. And it brought blacks down a little, and it darkened down in here a little bit. Outside of this darker area here, I like everything else about the shot. We have a lot of nice depth in the shot between the various mountain peaks as they recede off to this far mountain peak, the sky in the background. We have nice visual interest with the folks riding through the scene. But to me, it's a little dark here. Now this does add some more depth to the image, but I don't like that it's so dark. To me, it's kind of robbing away from the rest of the scene, meaning we're kind of getting stuck. At least my eyes are getting stuck staring at this. So I want to deal with this dark area here. And really the only way you're going to be able to do it is with a brush. So we're going to reset the brush. We're going to double click on the word effects. Actually, all I have is exposure down. But in this case, we're going to bring exposure up. We can bring shadows up if you want. A lot of people say this, I'll bring exposure up, and they say, you could have did that with shadows. I'm going to show you something. We're going to bring shadows all the way up. The shadow slider and the white slider, the highlight slider, the black slider, all those 4 sliders on the brush tool, the radial filter tool, and the graduated filter aren't as strong in these tools as they are in the basic panel. And I am actually brushing in 100% or shadows on 100. And you can see it's barely doing anything. All right, so I just did that because I know people are going to say you could have did, because they always do. And yes, I could have, but I didn't. And I'm not going to. So we're going to reset shadows back to 0, and we're going to turn exposure up. Now I spilled over in a lot of spots. We're going to have to fix that. But we're just opening that up a little, about like that. Now you can see it's horrible in here. So we're going to get the erase tool, and we're going to feather the erase tool a little bit. We have flow and density all the way up. Auto mask is off, and I'm just going to get a bigger erase tool. Now this we're going to have to really fuss with, and for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to. All right, but you really need to make sure that you're not, you don't have any ghosting around these. You see how there's ghosting right in here? Our brush spilled over. So you really want to take your time, and you don't want to overlap too much either way, or you'll have rocks that are real dark at their tips, or you'll have the background behind the rocks ghosting really bright, and you don't want either. You want to avoid either as much as possible. So it's kind of hard to do. You can see how these are all tinged black, dark. I mean, that's not a big deal, but to me it's a big deal. And as I do this, I'll just tell you a quick story. I often get emails, unsigned emails from like generic emails, generic sources. And when I say that, it'd be like, JW52 at yahoo.com, and they don't sign it. I don't even know if it's a man or a woman. And basically tell me all the stuff I'm doing wrong. And I got an email yesterday, and a person says I obsess too much about noise. And maybe I do. I don't deny it. But my answer, though, is obsessing about anything. Do you think Michael Jordan obsessed about basketball? Do you think Jack Nicklaus obsessed about golf? I heard stories about when Jack Nicklaus was young, he used to hit 1,000 golf balls in the morning and 1,000 golf balls in the afternoon and 1,000 golf balls in the evening. That was his regimen of practice. Mickey Mantle worked on a dairy farm. I think it was a farm. I don't know if it was a dairy farm. And he hit after work when he was exhausted. He would run around the barn. I don't remember how many times, but a bazillion times. And then he would hit 500 baseballs off the tee right-handed, and then 500 baseballs off the tee left-handed against the side of the barn. And everyone knows Mickey Mantle's one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And so I guess he was obsessed with baseball. All I'm saying is, if you want to be the best you could be about anything, sometimes you have to obsess a little bit. And yes, I do obsess about noise. I obsess about a lot of things. Like these black little tips here, that's unacceptable to me. Now, if I had time in this video, I would go in and I would clean that all up until that was perfect. And because I obsess about that. I know I'm sounding pretentious when I'm talking about Mickey Mantle, Michael Jordan, and Jack Nicklaus, and then I talk about me. I don't mean to be. I'm just saying for you, sometimes you're going to have to obsess. If you really want to be a great photographer, not just a good photographer, not just that photographer that throws a photo on Facebook and your 212 friends on Facebook tell you how great you are. You want to be a great photographer. Sometimes you're going to have to obsess about it, and you're going to really have to be picky. So that's lesson for today on my soapbox. So I apologize for that, but I just took that opportunity while I was trying to clean that up to say that. So I got this nice, I think, brighter. I like that. All right. So we did most of the basic processing. We didn't do vibrance or we didn't do clarity yet. But I think we're going to do that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a virtual copy. The noise is good, even though Ian shot at ISO 1000, the noise actually is very nicely controlled here. So I really like the noise is very well done. If you zoom in, I could barely see it. So at this point, actually, before I should have did this, I'm going to get rid of this virtual copy. Bear with me, I'm sorry. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm not going to send this over to Topaz Denoise to remove noise. We're going to do it here. So I'm going to bring sharpening all the way down to 0, though, at first. Then we're going to look up in the sky, and I could see noise. Now, I'm not sure you could see it in the video, but I do see it. But it isn't bad. So I'm going to turn noise reduction to 40. And it totally obliterated the noise at 40. So I'm going to bring it down to 30. And I could see it just barely at 30. So we're going to bring it up to 35. And I could still just barely see it at 35. So I'm going to go to 40 where it was not there. So we got rid of the noise at 40. So there is an unsharpened image without any noise. Now I am going to create that virtual copy. The reason why I'm creating the virtual copy now is I am going to send this over to ON1 Effects 10 for finishing. But I want to finish it in Lightroom as well, so you could see the finished product totally done in Lightroom. So now we got to sharpen it, our Lightroom version of the image. So I am going to just jump right up to 70. That really did a nice job in here. We're going to zoom in. Added a touch of noise in the sky, so we're going to mask it. I'm going to hold the Alt or Option key. It's Alt if you have a PC, Option if you have a Mac. We'll click on this masking tool, and we'll move that to the right. And all the white is getting sharpened, and anything that black is not getting sharpened, which is the sky. So I like that. I think that looks really good. I like that a lot. Oh, by the way, we didn't do lens corrections. It was a Fujifilm mirrorless camera, so it has the built-in lens profile applied. Sorry I didn't mention that sooner. We're going to jump right down to effects. So you guys know I like to put a darker vignette on. I think something like that. Okay, I think we're done in Lightroom. Total Lightroom processing right there. I'm right clicking on it again. I'm going to create another virtual copy. And in this virtual copy, once it shows, there it is, we're just going to reset it. Okay, so there is our before image, and there is our totally processed image, 100% in Lightroom. Totally done. Now I'm going to jump over to this image. And this now has noise reduction applied, but we did not add any sharpening. And I mentioned I want to send it over to ON1 Effects 10. Before I do that, I don't like this bicycle right here, and I want to get rid of it. Now you could use like a spot removal tool in Lightroom to do that. Well, we could try. I don't think it's going to do a good enough job, but we'll see. See, you could see it around there. We could change to heel mode and get rid of it and see if that works any better, which I suspect it'll work worse. Actually, that worked pretty good. And I'm going to actually go with that. I was going to bring this over to Photoshop, but I like that. It looks pretty good. So we used the spot removal tool. I got rid of that bicycle. Could have did that to the other one too. So we're going to right click it on this now. We're going to edit in ON1 Effects 10. Now it is a virtual copy, so it's going to create a PSD file for ON1. That's what it uses. You could use a TIFF file also. We'll go with the PSD. So it's going to create that. And when that opens, I'm not going to do a lot to it. We'll use a smart photo. That just means we could come back in and re-edit this later if we want to. Remember I didn't add any clarity to the other image, and I just sharpened it, and I didn't sharpen this one at all. And kind of like the ON1 version of clarity is dynamic contrast, so I'm going to add that, and you can see how that really brought out the mountains a lot more. And then I'm just going to add the vignette to it. That's all. And we'll look at the soft vignette. I like that, except it's encroaching a little bit too much into the middle of the picture. So I'm going to go to size and move this slider to the right, which pulls it out. So there's before the vignette, after the vignette. That's it. I'm done. Now, let me try to clean up down here. This is the virtual copy that I sent over to ON1 Effects 10. I don't need that, so I'm going to delete that. Now, one thing I mentioned, this is a done image in Lightroom. One thing I forgot to do to it, though, is I forgot to add clarity. So I apologize for that. So we'll add some clarity. That helps a lot. Look at that. Really makes it pop. So I like that. So here's our original image. Here is our image done in Lightroom only, all the way through. And here is the image done in Lightroom and ON1 Effects 10. Very similar to the Lightroom version. So we could select them all, and we'll go to survey mode and look at all three. This is the original image right here. This is the Lightroom image right here because it has the bicycle in it. And this is the image that was done in Lightroom and ON1 Effects. So those look very similar. If you get rid of this bike, you'd be hard pressed to tell those apart. So that's it. That's how I would go about processing this image. To me, I wanted to try to soften the darkness that was in this little valley area right here. I think I did that adequately. So that's it. Thank you, Ian, for sharing your image with us. Thank you, everyone, for watching my videos. I truly do appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.